Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Lester Noel is an English musician, singer, songwriter, and teacher who began his musical odyssey with the indie band Grab Grab the Haddock. Some 20 years later, the band's name would win the highly acclaimed Worst Band Name of All Time on a BBC Radio 1 listeners poll. Hey, all publicity is good publicity, right?
Absolutely, yes.
The unit released a couple of singles and EPs from 1984 to 1985 and have tracks reissued on various artists' compilations over the years. Lester broke from that band and formed North of Cornwallis, which is where I first heard of Mr. Noel's work. Lucky for me, I picked up a copy of the various artists' compilation, The Sound of Leamington Spa, Volume 1, which included a track from Lester's band. Next stop for my guest was in a dance hip-hop collective, Beats International, formed by Norman Cook, who would later go on to more notoriety as Fatboy Slim. Lester played on both Beats International albums in the early 90s. And more recently, my guest has joined forces with ex-Gangway member Henrik Balling as the Quiet Boy. Well, welcome, Lester.
Thank you for having me here.
It's nice to be had, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, go back a few years. I could talk about where you were born.
Yeah. Okay. So I was born in London, northwest London, very close to Notting Hill Gate. And for other people who know the area, Notting Hill Gate, and there's a road that goes all the way from Harrow Road up to Wembley Stadium. And that's the road that my little town, which was called Kensal Green, it's still called Kensal Green, that's where I grew up.
All right, all right. About relate some fond childhood memories, maybe, that growing up.
Yeah, definitely. School was nice, but it was in that typical, we're in a sort of working class London atmosphere where if you were different, you definitely stood out. And at the time, I suppose back in 1977, when I was probably one of the only black punks, well, in my little area, I must have stood out like a sore thumb.
Okay. Early on, do you remember hearing music being played in the house?
Absolutely, yes. My mum and dad played music. They played a lot of soul music, Brooke Benton, loads of Diana Ross. They also played lots of sort of calypso stuff by the Mighty Sparrow and loads of different things like that. And I loved it all. And I took it all in, and I wanted to become a musician, or I wanted to be play the guitar or something, but I didn't know how to get about doing it. But I have a lot of fond memories of making my first drum kit.
Is that right?
Making my first guitar. Okay, but it's not the guitar and drum kit that you will know about. But my first drum was basically blowing up some balloons and wedging them into a sofa or an armchair. So then I'd use my mum's knitting needles, and they were the drumsticks. That's the first one. And I had, obviously, the pots and pans came into it as well for some tom-toms and a little bit of snare as well on the Baker foil.
Oh, I bet your parents. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, and then from that, I graduated from the drum kit to making my own guitar, which was an old tennis racket, and I'd cut all the strings apart from at least 4 going down, so I had the rudiments of a guitar. That's all I knew. I didn't have any sort of tuning pegs on the handle of the said tennis racket, but that was as good as I could get at the time.
A couple of things. I was a mean air guitarist in my day.
Oh yes, love a bit of yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my musical tastes were really sort of strange around the sort of times when I started to. The first record that I ever bought was ABBA SOS. I just loved the melody line in that, and that got me going on to various different things. I mean, I've got a very wide musical collection and taste. They go from from doing that, the first gig that I ever went to was going to see Queen. I saw Queen doing the Night at the Opera tour at Earl's Court in London, and I loved it. And of course, I loved Queen around that time, and I was very much into prog rock as well around that time. I liked Genesis, but I liked Genesis, the Peter Gabriel Genesis. But that didn't stop me going to see them, because I went to see them at the Earl's Court as well. But then around that time, I started to sort of get flirty with all the punk stuff going on, and I sort of really went down that road after that. Yeah.
I saw Queen on their, what must have been the day of the races.
Yeah.
And then News of the World. So it was a little bit, but yeah.
Definitely great musicians, great vocalists, great songs. What's not to like?
Oh yeah, and what a performer too. I mean,
absolutely. Front man. I always gravitate to those front men, and yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
Well, you mentioned a few musicians you were into early on, and the concert. So you're way ahead of me here, Lester. At what age did you start? Did you mention that? Start playing guitar? What age?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't start playing guitar until I badgered my mum into buying there's another story coming up. I badgered my mum into buying my first guitar. Was probably about 78, around that time, when I started to sort of go and see bands. I'd probably sort of badgered her into sort of buying a guitar. And I remembered, 77 it was, because I remember going to see the Buzzcocks, and I saw Pete Shelley playing a Gibson Marauder guitar, and I wanted one exactly like that. And I asked my mum, and my mum said, well, you're going to show me what this guitar is. And I managed to show her this copy of a Gibson Marauder guitar. And but that was the second guitar. I'm going ahead of myself. Before that, I got a really basic acoustic guitar when I was nowhere near ready to actually sort of play a guitar. I was quite young, but they thought, oh, he likes music. Here's a guitar. It was like acoustic guitar, and at that time I really wasn't ready for it. All I thought about when I saw the guitar, I saw lots of different strings that I didn't know where to put my fingers, and what was I going to do with that? And at the time, there was an advert on the television about cheese, of all things. And I saw this advert, and I saw that there was this guy with a great big lump of cheese, and he had this thing that looked like a guitar string, and he started to cut the cheese with it. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. That's what I'm going to do with this guitar. I can use it as a cheese cutter. So I took the strings off. I went to my mum's fridge. I got the cheese out, and I started to cut the cheese. That was it. And I fell in love with the guitar strings, but not the process of trying to learn how to play the guitar. That came on when I thought, hold on a second, the cheese is out. I've got to learn how to play the guitar. I want that Gibson Marauder. I love Buzzcocks. I love the songs. Pure pop, loved it. And that's when I started to try and learn how to play the guitar. And I tried to sort of do everything by ear, because I got some of the chords and I like that, but I found it really fascinating to have to, if I listened carefully, to listen to the chords and then figured out where my fingers should go to make that same chord sound. So that's what I did. I've done, and I still do that to this day. Really, I'm lucky that I've got a good ear for music, so I like to piece together things that sound nice. Maybe not necessarily the right chords, but that sound really nice together. So yeah.
That sound well. Yeah, the sound. Yeah. Did you? I don't know if you saw my interview with Steve Diggle.
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah. So I can send you that link, or
absolutely, absolutely, love to. Yeah. I'm glad that they're still going, because I know that there's a lot of people that would have said, oh, the Buzzcocks was with Pete Shelley, and that's it. They should have stopped them. But right. If you've got music, you've got to play it, and you've got to keep on playing it until you can't play it. So yeah.
That's right.
Glad we're
But
still doing it. Yeah.
if it's within you, inside you, you've got
Let it out. Yeah. Yeah.
you you got that's right. That's right. If you're
Yeah.
a musician, that's right. Well,
Gotta keep. Yeah.
talk talk about so after Tracy Thorn left the Marine Girls,
Yeah.
form Everything But the Girl had been what? The
Yeah.
two members, the sisters Jane and Alice Fox,
Yeah.
they came into your orbit.
Yeah.
Tell the story and the band that formed.
Okay. So before the Marine Girls split up,
Mhm.
I met them at a gig. I met well, they were all playing at the gig. I used to go and follow them. I used to go and see all their gigs when they played in London. So
Huh.
I'd met I met Jane, Alice, and Tracy, and we got on really well together. And after I met them, they became friends. So I used to go to the gigs, and I used to see them after the gig, and that's how it progressed. Really, we became really good friends, and I went to the last gig that they ever played, which is in Glasgow, in a place called Night Moves, which I think on a Saturday night it was a sort of disco. But around that time, it was. I'm trying to think of what day that was. It was somewhere in the 84, maybe even 85. I don't know. I'm not sure actually. But no, it's definitely earlier than that. But the last gig they played, they just sort of had a really rough treatment by the Glasgow crowd because they just wanted punk, and that wasn't Marine Girls. That wasn't Marine Girls. They managed to get through the gig okay, but I think it was one of those gigs that they sort of said, right, okay, that's happened then. Let's take stock of what we want to do later on. And I think that Tracy was always doing the Everything But the Girl thing, and it was going really well. And I think it was just it was a natural. It came to a natural point where they both went their separate ways, and everyone was sort of happy about that, because I think it was just the right time. The timing was right.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a really strange. It was a very, very strange trip. That I remember meeting them at the station, and we got on the train, and the reason it's sort of in my mind is because it was the day after my mum's funeral. My mum died, and I thought I'm supposed to be. I wanted to go with them to support them on this gig, because it was like I think it was the first time they played in Scotland, and I didn't know at the time that it was going to be the last time that they played together. But I wanted to go, and I thought it would be good to sort of take my mind off what was going on at home, and go with them. I'm glad I did go, because it did sort of, I could support my friends and everything like that, and that's what I did. So yeah, it was a very strange time, but yeah. So after the gig, a little bit later, when all the dust sort of settled and everything, Jane rang me up and said, I've got this idea about forming another band. Would you like to be in it? And I said, yes, no problem, absolutely. And that's when it started, really. Yes.
Okay, okay. And Grab the Haddock
Yeah.
is from a painting, right?
It's from a painting by Bruce McLean, and this is Jane, because she's an artist. She's a if you were to sort of speak to Jane, she'd probably say that she was an artist first, musician second, and that's what she does to this day. She teaches art in the college, and she does her own art as well, and yeah, she's always been of that sort of. Was the artist. She did all the record sleeves. In fact, she did the record sleeve from Everything But the Girl's first album, Eden. She did that sleeve.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so she did that one, and she did all of our sleeves as well, and the labels and everything like that, because that was her thing, and we just left her to it because she was much better qualified than we were to do it.
Well, I was going to ask you, Jane. That's not the same as the artist Jane, right? It had the
No, it's
song
not. Even though we were on the same label, that was very strange.
Cherry Red. Yeah,
Hold on,
yeah.
might try and find. Hold on. I
Okay.
might try and find Eden. Hold on. Oh dear, where is it? All right. Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
that's the sleeve that Jane did.
Yes. Yes. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that one actually on CD.
Yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
you
The
know
other Jane, no, completely different.
yeah, totally different. What was the name of the song? It's on Cherry Red too.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
it's fine. It's a fine day.
day. It's a fine day. Yes. Yes.
It's a fine day. Yeah.
One hit wonder. Well,
Yes. Yes. I know all about one hit wonders. Actually, no, we had two, so we can't be one hit.
You passed your quota. That's what you did.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, listening to a couple of those, the singles, the EPs,
Yeah.
I had a couple of comments. I mean, I like the guitar in The Last Fond Goodbye. I
Yeah.
really like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That was one of mine. That was yes. It was very simple. It was probably one of the first proper pop songs I wrote. I think. Yeah, I always thought that it came out really quickly. I like those things when it does come out really quickly. You got the melody, you got everything, and it's just a my take on trying to do a Buzzcocks really sort of a pop song, a love song. Yeah.
Yeah. It is nice when you don't have to just like toil over it, to get it. Yeah.
Songwriter's curse. That really is. Yeah, absolutely.
And then one song in particular, For All We Know,
Yeah, that's mine as well.
speaking of Everything But the Girl, I think
Yeah.
it kind of ventures into similar territory to what
Yeah.
they were doing. And
I
I
think
guess it makes sense since they were together,
yeah, I think so. I think that we yeah, I think it is. I mean, I've always loved Tracy's Everything But the Girl project and
Yeah.
what she was doing, and I'm sure that when you're writing and stuff, it the stuff is in your brain and whatever, and there is definitely similarities, and I don't think that anything we could have done after the Marine Girls would have actually been that dissimilar from the Marine Girls. There was always going to be a link there, and a link to what Tracy was doing when she was starting to do her solo things on Plain Sailing and things like that. That was yeah, which is another gorgeous album. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting about Tracy. I don't want to get off too much on a tangent, but
Yeah.
how shy she was early on. I've read stories.
Yeah.
Didn't want to get up in front of audience. And
No.
glad she broke out of her shell. I know a lot of people are.
Yes, she did. She had it. She always had it in her, but it was just trying to sort of get her to be that confident. And it's like when I used to sort of go and see them, and I saw them afterwards. I always used to say, "Oh, Tracy, you know what? You should do some backing vocals on that bit as well because it would be really good." And she was sort of like, "Oh, I'm not sure about that," but she definitely, what a singer she is. She's just amazing, and the stuff that done recently is really, really good. And I just, there was a long time ago. Every time I used to sort of see her after that, I used to always say, "Oh, me and Henrik Balling, we'd been. I'm going right ahead of myself, but we would always sort of think about Tracy singing one of the songs that Henrik had written, and it was always on the cards happening, but it just never happened. The right moment went, and it just never happened. But it would have been really good.
Well, let's so talk about so what happened? Did the group Grab the Haddock just kind of run its course, or what happened?
I think that happened. We did the two singles, and in that time as well, we did the tour. We did the tour with the Colourfield, which was Terry Hall's project at the time.
Oh, yeah. Love the color. Love the color.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's when I was the manager. I was sort of manager of all the bands that I've been in, or at least some of them. But certainly North of Cornwallis and Grab Grab the Haddock, I was the person who sort of got the gigs, and I just sent tape to all the people that I thought would be interested. And I managed to get one to Terry Hall's manager, and he really liked it. And he said, "We'd love you to come and support us on the first UK tour." So we did that, which was great experience for the band and everything to do that, playing in big venues. And we ended up on that tour. The last gig that we did on that tour was at Hammersmith Palais in London, and it was fantastic. Also on that bill with us that day was the Loft as well, on the Creation label. They were on that label as well. So yeah, great experience. And but we did some other things. Jane came over and did some demos with me on different songs, but we just sort of ran out of steam, I think, and so we didn't sort of, the album, we didn't end up doing an album, and we just made it it was like a sort of, it wasn't a sort of an implosion. It just sort of just ran out of steam, and that was it. We're all very, very, very good friends, you know, since. I mean, Jane's when I got married, she was my best woman at my wedding. So, you know, and I saw her 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to go and see her again next weekend. So we're still in touch, and Alice as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, yeah. How did you talk about how you and Steve Galloway met?
So Steve, at the time, he was in a relationship with Alice, so that was the reason why sort of Steve, Alice knew that Steve could play guitar as well, and having two guitars would be really nice. You'd have someone doing the lead, and I could do the rhythm, and that's how that worked as well. So yeah.
Okay. And then the name North of Cornwallis, who penned that?
That was another sort of strange name that really didn't mean anything, and that was that I can't take any credit for that. That was our guitarist at the time, and really lovely songwriter Rob Adamson, and he had this idea of being Cornwallis being an island, and I think there's Wallis Island, and I think it's in Canada somewhere, or that way, north of Cornwallis. There's not much after that, and that's how his interpretation was about that one. So I quite liked it. I couldn't think of anything better, so that it stuck.
It stuck.
You know what it's like trying to find a name for your band. It's so hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I did hear the song Billy Liar off of the Sound of Leamington Spa. So where is Leamington Spa? Where
Leamington Spa? It's in Coventry. It's in the Midlands somewhere. I must admit, I've never been there, but it's in the Midlands. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And 3 different record companies, especially Fire Station Tower, the German, came together for those. Yeah. But I've discovered a lot of great bands I've got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, the really nice jangly pop, right up my alley.
Yeah, well, that was the how we came together was basically sort of, Rob had put an advert in Melody Maker, I think it was at the time, and he was just looking for a singer to form a band, and I answered the advert, and it was in between that Grab Grab the Haddock thing, and I answered the advert, and he came round to my house, and we talked a lot about the different bands that we liked. We both liked the jangly stuff. We both liked the first Delamitri album. We both liked a lot of We both liked a lot of the Aztec Camera stuff and the Orange Juice stuff and things like that, and Joseph K and Go Between. So we're both singing from the same hymn sheet. And then so when he started to sort of play me some of the backing tracks, and the Billy Liar was the first instrumental that he'd given to me, and all I had to do was put a melody and write some lyrics, and we both wrote the lyrics together, and I had the melody for Billy Liar and the idea about Billy Liar, and then it sort of, there was lots of different versions of it. There has been a lot of different versions of that song, because that's what we tend to do. We were very, very good at being procrastinating. We never settled on one version of something if we couldn't tinker with it. So we used to tinker about with songs, and we used to either put an extra bit of the middle eight in, take it out, change that, and whatever. And so there's probably about 5 or 6 different versions of Billy Liar out in the community, on the internet, in YouTube land, wherever. So yes, there's even one with Jane Fox from Grab Grab the Haddock doing a little intro, because I had this idea of her sort of doing. Do you know? I had this idea from the Kate Bush album Hounds of Love.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so there's a little bit in, I think it's The Jig of Life, I think it is, but I could be wrong. But there's a bit where there's an Irish, a wonderful lilting Irish voice that is trying to wake someone up. And it says, "Wake up, wake up,"
Yeah.
and
it may be that. Yeah, it may. I know what you.
I think it's around that Jig of Life, because it's that do that one. It's that one. I think it's the Jig of Life, and I thought it would be really a good thing to sort of to have Jane having that her lovely voice to sort of say, "Wake up, Billy, wake up," and so that's one of the versions on. But there's quite a few. But yeah.
Did you record anything else north of Cornwallis? Anything
in that corner there?
Uh-huh. Oh wow!
Yes, are the tapes that I've been sitting on for ages, trying to. Some of them are things that we recorded, and we were trying to make an album, which didn't happen. And other things are things that didn't get finished. So at some point I will try and do that. And when I had this idea about doing an album, and around the time of when the drums were playing, Jacob Graham from the drums, he sort of contacted me, because he'd seen my name somewhere, and he said, North of Cornwallis, I love that band. And since then we became friends. I went to see the drums lots of times. I saw them in Denmark as well, when I was writing with Henrik, and introduced them to, and that it was really, he still is. I've been over to New York a couple of times, and spent time with Jacob. Really nice guy. And he had this idea about putting out a North of Cornwallis album, which never happened, but it may do in the future, who knows. But it's something that I want to do before I shuffle off into the distance, I think. I've got to release one album, at least one album, definitely.
Yeah, well, all the tapes are in good shape, right? They're masterable.
Yeah, they look okay. I think I need to just bake them, that sort of thing. Where they just got to get baked, and I'd love to sort of get them back onto some sort of computer thing where I can twiddle about with them and make them a little bit, zhuzh them up again a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, not that you haven't thought of that, but food for thought,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Down the road. Well, let me ask you, what a switch, going from indie pop guitar band to dance and hip hop. I was like, what happened there?
Well, that was all to do with the North of Cornwallis tour that we did in '87, and that was supporting the House Martins. And so that's where that link is. And basically, when North of Cornwallis were playing, we were playing at a London venue called Dingwalls in Camden Town.
Okay, I've heard of it.
And one night I was on stage, and I looked out, and I could see Norman Cook, and I could see Paul Heaton from the House Martins, and they'd come especially to see us. Also on the bill that night was, I think we were supporting the Happy Mondays, which was a very strange combination. But yes, they were there to see us. And when we got off the stage later on, they came up to me and said, "Would you like to come support us on that tour?" And I said, "Absolutely." And the rest of the guys said, "Yes, no problem." And that really came about because I'm a music fan. I've always been a music fan, and I've always tried to make connections with people. And I had a long lasting connection with Paul Heaton. We used to sort of send letters to each other, and I used to sort of when he released something, I said, "Oh, that your voice is just absolutely brilliant." And I used to send him my North of Cornwallis demos, and he said, "Oh, love that bit," and that's how we sort of got to know Paul Heaton, and I got to know Norman as well, and that made Godis, who were signing, or who had signed House Martins, that made them have a look at us, and they used to sort of come and see us play as well. And there was a lot of talk around that time that Godis would sign North of Cornwallis, and I used to have meetings with Andy McDonald, the boss, a couple of times, and he always liked it, but I think he really wanted me to sort of do stuff on my own, and I always held out that I wanted to do it with the rest of them. It's one of those sort of things, you know. I just felt that there was still a chance that we could do it as a band. I don't have to do things on my own and go solo, because I you know, whatever that meant. But I just wanted to try and do it on my own, and so he said fair enough, and didn't really sort of do anything. But it was really when we did the tour, and it went really well, but we didn't really get anything back from any of the record companies when you know, and at the end of that, I started thinking maybe it's time for me to sort of do something else, or think about doing something else. So whilst we were in this in between bit, Norman asked me to come and come down to Brighton, because Stan Cullimore, the guitarist, he was thinking about doing a band, because obviously the House Martins had split up now, so they're all doing different things, or thinking about doing different things. He had this band that he wanted me to be the singer of. I think it was called Cucumber Street, I think it was. And so I thought, yeah, okay, I'll come and just do some vocals for some demos that he had, and so I went down to Brighton, and really enjoyed it, because I was working with Norman and I was working with Stan, and Stan Cullimore had some really lovely songs. There were some really nice songs on that, and but I knew, and Andy McDonald knew, that it would probably only work if I was fronting that band. Okay. And then Norman said, actually, I've really enjoyed doing this. It'd be really nice if you did some stuff with me. So I had to choose between Norman Cook. I had to make that choice between Norman Cook and Stan Cullimore, both who I really loved and really good friends. And I had to sort of choose. And I knew that if I chose Norman, then the Cucumber Street thing might not have happened, or it might have happened with someone else. But I had to make a choice, and I chose Norman. Yeah, I just felt that something could happen. I mean, it's not as if I didn't like what Stan was doing. I loved the songs, but I just felt there was something about Norman and what he was trying to do that was, I liked what he was trying to do. That sort of mix of having loads of different people on stage, and it had a kind of specials vibe to it that I really quite liked. So I went with Norman, and the rest is history.
Yeah, kind of a collective.
Yeah.
Well, you saw, you know, you were sensing there's a little more potential there.
Yeah, so, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I get that, you know.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
On the, I want to hear about this. On the first album, Let Them Eat Bingo.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, explain the title.
I think it was based, that was the title's all about Norman. I think it was just that Marie Antoinette.
Let them
eat cake. Yeah. So that was it. It was just a play on words, I think, and I think it was also a sort of a play on the fact that that we around that time were getting really sort of into all the sort of lotto games and all the bingo games and all the sort of things, and it was, you know, you can't eat bingo cards and stuff like that. And I think that's what it was. Let them eat bingo, yeah, because we're all very much sort of left wing Labour supporters, and Norm's always been that way as well. He's very much like that, and I think that he wouldn't miss up an opportunity to do something like that. In fact, there's we sort of the thing that sort of like was the trigger of Beats International really was Norman sort of saying, I've got this song, it'd be really good if you could do some vocals on it, and it was for Spacious Lies, and that's the thing that I first worked with Norman doing. And when we recorded it and then we did the video, there's a scene where he's got a blue flag and he's burning it, and that was a sort of thing on, you know, the Tories and conservatism and things like that. So there's a blue flag being burnt. So yeah, that was our take on the whole thing, because we're of a definite same mind when it comes to politics. So yeah.
Okay. Well, how was it working with Billy Bragg and Captain Sensible?
Yeah, that was odd, because we with Billy, I'd met him when I met him after actually a lot of the sort of instruments and things had already been put down. So I didn't meet Captain Sensible. I've obviously since met him, and also I've met Billy because I was in one of his videos as well. but yeah, it was really nice. They were all really good people, really lovely people to meet and work with. Billy's such a lovely guy, politics absolutely brilliant, and written some really good songs as well. And yeah, we're in my wife Sal and my little baby, who's now huge, Callum, is in the Sexuality video. See if you can spot us.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Let me write that. Billy Bragg's let me write the Sexuality. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
That's the one he co-wrote with Johnny Marr.
Ah, yes. Well, you know, I used to DJ at a club in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And I would always play What? You know, Captain Sensible.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
What? I said Captain.
Yes.
I said
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird because that I saw a little piece about Captain Sensible the other day, and there was a thing about because he's had some other singles that have been bigger hits in the UK, but that What is really huge in Italy.
Ah,
Huge.
that's
Like,
strange.
you know, it's strange, you know, it's so big in Italy, not really as big over here, but yeah, in Italy it was really big. But yeah.
Yeah. There's no telling with, you know, what
What's
country
gonna
will
make
like
it?
what, you know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
and what
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
so it's, you know, doing some of these interviews, you know, it's strange, you know. Well, we were real popular over here and not so much at home, you know. It's wow,
Yeah.
you
Uh,
don't
you just
no
never.
rhyme or reason sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, on the second 1991's excursion on the Version, in the video or in the ghetto,
Yeah.
is that your child you're holding?
That is my eldest son.
The one that's really
The one that's really big. He's taller than me now. That's kind of yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that bit was filmed in Brighton, the scenes with me and Callum in Brighton, but the rest of it was filmed in Kenya when we were invited to go out to Africa and do some gigs in different towns. We went to Zimbabwe, we went to Botswana, we went to Kenya, and Zambia, and we had such a great time. There was no money involved. We basically knew that we couldn't. There wasn't any money involved. It was all about the experience, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And that video and the Sun Doesn't Shine video, they were both filmed in Kenya. So yeah, it was
Wow.
wonderful.
So you guys went down well over there?
Oh, it was absolutely amazing, because I think in Zimbabwe, because it was the first time that a Western band had gone out there and played for, I don't know, ages and ages and ages, and we played in a football stadium, and it was absolutely packed, and all the scenes that you could see right at the beginning, they were just absolutely going crazy. It was fabulous stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, what a cultural
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It was. It really was. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I interviewed a folk singer a while back, and she had gone. She was from Ireland. She had gone over to South Africa. This was like in the '70s, I believe. Um, and still with apartheid,
yeah,
and and she said how scary it was sometimes performing.
yeah,
Uh, you know, and
yeah,
she got arrested on one occasion. Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting, very interesting. Well,
yeah.
looking back on your time, did you enjoy your time in Beats International?
Oh, absolutely. It was. I got a chance about a few weeks back. I went down to Brighton and I met up with Norman, and there's a few people from the collective that were there because it was Norman's 60th birthday, and so I went down to Brighton. We met up, and it was really lovely to meet up. And yeah, they were just all such wonderful experiences. It was just an amazing roller coaster of a ride. The whole thing about um, the the first single for Spacious Lies was like almost like a little teaser where it was Norman Cook featuring Lester, and we had a lot of fun promoting that record. And I think that's when we realized that we were really good friends, and that would be a really good sort of platform. We could do this. We could make a collective. We could make a group, and it would be better than Norman Cook featuring blah blah blah, and it would be a group. So although it was contractually, it was always me and Norman. We used to sort of just drag in everyone that we could that would help the record or play or whatever, and that's how it. We had so much fun, really good, and playing. We was never into sort of going to play sort of really expensive gigs, because we probably weren't offered as much money as a lot of bands around that time. But we always made sure we sort of got an experience out of them. I mean, we went to, like I said, we went to Africa, but we also spent a bit of time again with the British Arts Council, who said you should go to Romania. Now, at that time, we were invited out there just after there had been the assassination of Ceausescu,
Oh yeah,
which is so the country was in a really sort of, they were in happy moods, but it was still strange because we were invited to say hello to the public. So we're in Bucharest, and the British Arts Council said, "Here we've got this the UK band from England, Brighton, England, Beats International." So we walked out into this square, and it was a square that basically had been shot to pieces in all of the TV coverage. We're looking out, and there's a sea of people out there, and we're just thinking, oh my God, we had to just pinch ourselves, because we were in the place where history was made. I mean,
right.
it,
Yeah.
it was just crazy. And as we were driving from Bucharest to Brasov, where we were doing a show as well. You'd drive through the countryside, and you'd see what some of the things, apart from the Golden Palace that Ceausescu had built with all the money from everything else and given nothing to the people. He also chopped down all the towns, all the little villages, and built high-rise blocks of flats in the middle of the countryside. And it just was so surreal when you're driving around. You just saw beautiful countryside, and then there's another great big sort of tower, another one, and it was just incredible. It was just so strange. So to be able to go over to a country like that and to sort of play to sort of join in the celebrations. That was special as well.
Right, right. The whole opening up of Eastern Europe too, you know.
Yeah, that
It
was
was just,
yeah.
yeah, you know. I
It was
mean,
like dominoes, wasn't it? Around that
right,
time, I think that was the first thing that happened, and then it was like sort of bang, bang, bang. It was like a domino thing that happened around that time,
yeah,
culminated in the Berlin Wall going. Yeah.
right. And they were just so starved and hungry for, you know, Western music and
Oh, yeah,
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 yeah, or
definitely.
any kind of,
Any
you
kind of
know.
music, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Wow, what an
Yes,
experience.
it was a really amazing experience, and yeah, one that I will always cherish because of the experience and the friends that I made. It's just fantastic. Yeah.
That's wild.
Mm.
Well, okay, tell the story of how you and Danish musician Henrik, is it Balling or Balling? Balling, Balling,
Balling, Balling,
Balling, Henrik
Balling,
Balling,
Henrik.
Balling,
Yeah, yeah.
Balling of
Yeah.
Gangway got started. How
Well,
you and
that happened when Beats split up. Oh, yeah. There's another little story. When Beats we played in Japan. We went to Japan and we did two different tours there over the time of Beats International, and on one of my little days off or a couple of hours, I always like to sort of wherever I am, I like to either go out for a run. I like to go to a record shop and go to and do the flick thing, do the flick, and then and
hey,
I went into
I
oh
hear
yeah
you, I hear
yeah
you.
yeah. I there it's this story. There has to be a girl involved in this story. Um, back I'm going back in time. This is the BSL. I'm doing giving you a teacher. Going back in time. That's going back in
Okay,
time.
take your
Okay.
time. Okay.
Back in 1982, I worked for Richard Branson, and I was a salesman in this company called Caroline International, and they exported records all over the world.
Okay.
Okay, I did that for 7 years, and I've got some interesting. Well, not interesting. I went the first time I went to New York was the first time I was on a plane, apart from going to Grenada with my mum and dad. But I they flew me to New York, and I was the salesperson involved in the US sales marketing, which was based in New York. So I went over there as a 15, 16-year-old kid, and I stayed at Mick Jagger's old apartment in Greenwich Village, and it was I've forgotten where it was. Was it something street? It was Perry Street. I think it was Perry Street. And the person who showed me around New York was Richard Branson's daughter, and she looked after me, and we just went all over New York, and we sort of saw lots of stuff and everything. Um, but what happened? I'm now going back now. So at Caroline, I know there's a point to this. At Caroline International, there was someone who started working who was Danish, and her name was Birgitta, and we had a relationship for a very short space of time, which ended up with her inviting me to go over to Aarhus in Denmark and meet her family, which was really lovely. I met some of her friends, and I met her family, and then she dumped me
Okay.
right in the middle of in Aarhus, and I knew no one really apart from her friend, and that was it. And um, so what I had to do was basically sort of to go and stay with one of her mates for a little bit, and then wait for my flight and then get back home. So this basically this relationship was going nowhere. It was ended right there. She ended it. But the only good thing about it was that she gave me this cassette tape, with Gangway, a tape on it, Sitting in the Park.
Okay.
And I played that until I actually destroyed the tape because I thought it was so good. And I always thought, oh, that's a great song. Oh, that's a really good song. That's another really good song. And I sort of I wanted to later on, in between that sort of beat splitting up, I wanted to try and work with I thought about working with Henrik, and I thought, well, I looked at the production credits, David Motion, and I thought, wow, he's done some really good stuff. I love Strawberry Switchblade. The production on that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought that would be a really, really good person to meet. So I tried to sort of contact him. I managed to do it, and we had a meeting, and we talked about the songs that I'd done and everything. And he said, you should meet my friend Henrik. And I said, that's not Henrik Balling, is it? And he said, yes, that's Henrik Balling. How do you know? I said, well, I've got this album Sitting in the Park, and I've always thought what a great songwriter he is. Yes, and David Motion said, yes, he is a really good songwriter, and I'm sure he'd like to meet you. And he said, what I'll do is I'll give you the number of his record company, and you can ring the record company. I said, that sounds brilliant. So when I got back home, I rang up the record company. I think it was BMG over in Copenhagen, and they said they'd pass the message on to Henrik. 2 days later, I got a phone call from this guy called Mr. Balling, and I said, hold on a second, is that Henrik Balling? And he said, yes. And I said, oh, good grief. And we talked about the fact that I loved all the Gangway albums, because the other thing that I did, that by this time it wasn't just Sitting in the Park, because when I'd been on tour with Beats in Japan, I'd managed to go into Tower Records, and I got everything that they released. So I had Sitting in the Park, the new version. I had all of them. I had all of them. I had them all, and I just thought every song's great. Every song's really, really good. And then I phoned, then he phoned me, and we said, well, I'd love to meet you. And he said, well, why don't you come over to Copenhagen? And that was it. We just became really good friends, and that culminated in or loads of different things. But he said, I'd love you to do some vocals on a Gangway album. We're doing this album called That's Life, and we can do parts of it in the UK. I was living in Brighton at the time still, and I said that'd be really, really good. I met the rest of the band. I met Alan, and I met Torben from Gangway, and we got on really well. They all came down to Brighton and met my kids and my wife, and it was just really lovely. Then I started going up to London to record the backing vocals for the That's Life album, which was great fun. And they then asked me to Henrik then asked me to come over to Copenhagen to do some vocals of a new song that they hadn't written. And so I did that. And again, it was great fun. And by this time I was sort of doing this, going back and forth from Brighton to Copenhagen on a regular basis. And that meant that me and Henrik were very, very close, really good friends, which we still are to this day. And so that happened, and then That's Life came out. It didn't do as well as I thought it was going to do, but I loved it. I thought it was a really, really good album. And then later on in the year, Henrik called me and said, I think we're splitting up. Gangway splitting up. And I said, that's a real shame. It really is. And he said, I want to work with you. I want us to do something together. So we started which I thought was going to be a very short piece of work, but it ended up being over 15 years of working with each other, me going over to Copenhagen and stuff, which was an absolute blast. I mean, there were times we'd go over and we wouldn't do anything but sort of listen to bits and pieces, and we'd have an idea of different things, and we'd have fun, and we wrote, and we loved what we did. And if we woke up the next day after a hangover and went back in and it didn't still didn't sound right, we'd scrap it and we'd do something else. And that's what I loved about it. It was great. It really was really good. So we built up a body of work which I thought was going to be an album. It ended up only being 2 singles. So there's 2 singles under the band name of The Quiet Boy. I think it's Ghost Train and Don't Want to Go Home.
Right.
And I loved it. Loved the process of everything that was done with that. And I was thinking that it was going to be an album somewhere there, because there was a lot of songs there that we were working on that were really good. And then Henrik said, it looks as though Gangway are going to come back and do some stuff. We don't know what yet. But we want to do some work on an album, and I want to use as much of the things that we've been working on to be part of that album, plus all the vocals that you've already done. We use them as a backing vocals and things like that. And he said, what do you think about that? And I said, use it, love it. It's just really good to have the songs going out onto into the light of day. So yeah, do it. Absolutely brilliant. Because I was a fan first.
Right.
First and foremost, always a fan, and I just wanted the best for Gangway and Henrik, and so the songs came out as the album, whatever it is, and there's lots of things that I've got backing vocals on all over that and co-writing things and whatever, and that's cool. It's really, really cool. And I went to see them play their first gig back in Copenhagen since they sort of got back together, and it was a really emotional experience because I was sort of singing along with all those songs that we'd worked with, and also meeting the guys again. So it's a fantastic. It really was fantastic, and I think they're doing an album. They're doing some gigs in November. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, unfortunately, but I will wish them all the best.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this. Do you still have contact information for that Danish girl? You know what? Wouldn't it be something, contact her and say, thank you so much for hooking me up with Henrik?
The answer to that is no, I don't. But I have always thought about doing that, but no.
Yeah. Just to thank her. Yeah, it's like, well, look what inadvertently.
It's weird how things happen. Is sometimes you sort of life throws a curveball, and if it wasn't for me meeting her, then I wouldn't. I might not have known about Gangway, it's just crazy how things work out.
And a lot of times it is when you're at kind of a low point.
I was a little bit. I definitely after Beats split up, I was down. I'd sort of do a little bit of music. I even ended up doing some programming for Gary Clayle, this Bristol singer who sort of very much kind of like a rapper, but he does it in a Bristol accent. He was on a label called On New Sounds, and I think that's the producer is Adrian Sherwood, who does a lot of that sort of stuff as well. And I did some gigs with him just to sort of just keep doing some music, and then I did some youth work as well. And I just didn't feel like anything was sort of happening. So in the end, Sal and I decided it'd be really good to sort of move north and be a little bit closer to her parents. And I thought that would be a really good idea because Brighton's a very small place, and maybe I just needed to be somewhere else than Brighton at that time, just to sort of shake things up. That's what we try to do sometimes when we're sort of in that funk period. We sort of shake things up and see what happens. Yeah.
Well, that's good. You can do that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know you've been working on some new material, because you sent me
Yeah.
a few
Yeah.
tracks to
Yeah.
listen to.
Yeah.
And I, as I told you, I'm really anxious to hear that finished version of
Oh,
Listen.
listen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
really.
I think that has something. I don't know what it is yet, and but I'm getting closer to finding out what that is. I think that it's really it's nice. It's a little bit different for me because it's sort of it's coming more from that. Well, it started off with that drum rhythm, really. But I'm really excited about how that's going to turn out when it's finished. I've just got to finish it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's my problem at the moment because I procrastinate. Ah,
Hey, you and I are in the same boat there.
yeah, yeah,
I've always been a procrastinator.
yeah,
Even when I was in school, I have an exam, I
yeah,
would wait the night before.
yeah. Of course
I
you
would
did.
pull all nighters. I would pull,
Yeah,
yeah, and things
yeah,
like.
absolutely.
And the thing that it backfired. We had these things here called no-dos, that
Yeah,
we keep you awake, right?
yeah,
So I would
yeah,
take one of those to stay up and to all hours of the night studying. But then the thing is, once it wore off, in the morning, I'm just like crashing bad, you know, and I couldn't think for the life of me. So it would backfire and I would fail the test.
yeah, yeah.
It was
Oh,
like
yeah,
all that stuff I
I know.
remember. Yeah, I studied. No, it was gone.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah. So yeah, I'm with you there.
yeah,
I'm yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, no, so another thing about I think the Miss Texas 1967.
yeah. Hmm.
Your voice, even listening to your history of the music that you've sung on, it is really similar to Terry Hall's too. It's
Yeah,
got
yeah,
the timbre and everything. It's got
yeah.
that.
I
So
think it has. I think it's because I've always loved Terry Hall's voice, and I've loved, and it just seems to be my natural voice as well, which is very strange. But yeah. I loved enjoying doing Miss Texas 1967, and I just really I didn't think that I'd be playing that or sending it to people after he died, sort of thing. I just can't. I still can't believe that he's dead. It's just such a sad, I mean, yeah, such a sad thing.
yes, it is. I had sent him a request this probably 2 or 3 months before he passed. So I understood why he didn't. He's probably ill. He didn't
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
But it's like he and what is the other guy's name? The guy from the Associates that passed away.
Oh, Billy McKenzie.
No, not Billy.
Oh, Alan Rankin.
Alan Rankin. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I had sent one to him, and he said he would do a phone interview, but
yeah,
he didn't want to do. And I said, well, I don't have international phone service,
yeah,
so
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so it's like we can't do that. But he did offer, and then I hear I don't know how much later after that he
yeah,
passed.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's
But
crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I was friends with Alan Rankin on Facebook, and as much as friends you can be on that sort of thing. But I was really shocked because I'd bought the latest reissue of the Sulk album because it's that great big lovely box set and everything like that, and I just thought, and they'd done a remix of one of the songs. I didn't really like the remix actually, but it was good that I think it was it White Car in Germany, the remix, but I like the fact that people a new generation of people were getting to know the
right,
associates, because I just thought I saw them in at the Marquee when they were first doing their stuff, and I just thought, wow, what is that voice?
yeah,
Wow, it was
yeah,
just it was just amazing. And then it wasn't just that, it was what was going on with the drums, because it was like a wall of drums, and then what was going on with that guitar, it was like a wall of guitar, and it was just like, wow, how can this guy be sort of still managing to sort of cut through everything like that? What a voice. I just loved it, because at the time they had that. I think the classic associates lineup was Alan Rankin on guitar, Michael Dempsey from The Cure on bass, They had John Murphy, who was the drummer from Australia. He was just like just absolute animal on the drum kit. And then you had Billy Mackenzie to sort of do all the histrionics and everything like that with that gorgeous voice. And it got sort of changed a little bit during the time and the sort of creation of Sulk and stuff. But I think the main thing was always there, those two, Rankin and Mackenzie. And then Billy Mackenzie went off, they had Parting of the Ways. I still think it wasn't as good as when those two were together. It was there was something that was missing, and I think it was Alan Rankin's musicianship and their bond together. It's like, I think I remember Joe Strummer saying that said something about when you get a good lineup or a good band, you don't mess about with it, because if you do that, it doesn't work. And I think he ended up changing the lineup of the Clash, and I don't think it worked. I don't think it
No.
and I'm not sure if the stuff that came after Alan left the Associates was as good as the stuff with Alan in it.
Right. I don't think so myself.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk, I know, forever on.
I know.
It's like I think we have very similar taste. I told you that before.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and you're a musicologist, and I'm a
Yeah.
maven. Yeah, and it's you know, I've never played an instrument. You know, people will ask me in these interviews, like, Greg, do you play guitar? No, I don't. But I just love music and collecting it. And like
Yeah.
you said earlier, making that connection.
Yeah.
It's you know, I'd like to just bring the world together. You know, connect. You know, I could be the promotional manager for all of these things.
Yeah.
That's why I'm reaching out, you know, started doing more with, you know, international artists. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, my English is not so good and stuff. Well, you know, if you want to have an interpreter, or maybe it's not so bad, you know, let's try it out, you know, let's give it a shot.
Let's try and see how it goes.
I understand this being self-conscious about that, you know. But
I know.
Yeah. Well, did you want to mention any about your teaching, what we talked before, or do you want to leave that out? I mean, it's
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think there's anything to say. I mean, I for 24 years, I worked with students with different disabilities, autistic, wheelchair users. I've loved that. I've used music in all of the things that I've done with those students. I loved it. I still love making those bonds and those connections with the students that I work with, just doing different things. I'm in between jobs now, so something will come up, but I know that it's going to be working at creating those bonds and helping students. That's what I do. And also, maybe I might get around to sorting out that album and finishing that song, and finishing that next song, and the other one that hasn't been done for 10 years.
those things that are on the shelf. Yeah. You know, that's the thing. I mean, again, like with the music, I mean, that's within you too, is helping and ministering to those need, you know, kids in need. I mean, and if it's there, you got to try and do it, you know.
Do it,
And I do, you know, I mean, you know, that is really nice to have that kind of calling to do that. I think it's really, really wonderful, because you get so much back too.
Oh,
you know?
God! Oh, it's people don't realize the fact that, you know, for some students, just the smallest of steps is so huge for that person, and it means so much to them, that and being there to record that moment is just something that is so special. I can't really describe it. It's just one of those sort of moments captured in time that you need to be there or to experience it to know what it means.
yeah. You've had an impact on their lives, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to hope that I have, and if I haven't, I've been doing something wrong.
Right. And the same with music. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Same thing. Yeah, yeah,
you know, so it's you know, I think you have found your, well, a long time ago, your calling.
yeah.
And you know, you gotta keep doing it, like you
I got
said.
it. I know I got to keep doing it, and I don't know when I release something or or you do something, but I know that I will keep doing things until I can't. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Lester, I think we kind of come to a closing here, unless you have something else you'd like to add, or any you want to shout
Oh,
out to anybody, or
oh no, I've got no shout outs to anyone. I mean, yeah. Check if you want some things to sort of check out. Check out any of Gangway's albums because they're absolutely wonderful, and I'm on one of them. I'm on two of them actually. Hint, plug, and all that. What else can I say? No, I've loved every moment of it, of music, and being a musician. I hope to carry on doing it, and yeah, that's it.
all right, all right. No regrets, yeah.
No regrets, no tears goodbye. Yeah,
No tears goodbye. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Another one of mine. Well, that's
yeah,
been covered a few times, but yeah,
yes, absolutely, yes.
that's a
But
great,
it's a great song.
great song.
Yeah,
Well, all right then, Lester. Well, I'll say goodbye for now, but let's keep in touch.
we will keep in touch, and I will make sure you are one of the first people to hear a finished copy of Listen.
Thank you very
I
much.
will.
I'm
Yeah,
really looking forward to that.
yeah,
And keep on keeping on,
I will. You too. You too.
as they say. And we
Yeah,
will get this link to you once I get it edited. I
yeah,
don't think it's going to be much to edit.
yeah,
And that little blip that we had, it cleared
yeah.
up. It was
Oh,
it
that's
was
good.
a minute
Yeah,
or two. Yeah,
yeah,
something like that. It
yeah.
cleared
That's
up.
fine. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so all right. Well, I'll get that over to you, and
Okay.
all the best to you. Okay, Lester.
Yeah, you too. Take it easy and keep the
All right.
faith.
Yes, yes, I will.
See
You too. All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay, so this comes a little bit of sort of that bit where you're trying to fiddle around with your mouse and try and go for sort of bites, like the sort of the phone call
And
with your
you start
girlfriend.
looking, you
Yeah,
start
okay,
looking like a,
you
you
go
start
off.
looking like
Yeah,
a fool, like a
that's
fool, like
right. Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't
right.
know
I'm leaving
anything.
now. I'm
I
leaving
don't
now.
know anything about technology. No, I know. I know.
I'm leaving now. Have a good weekend.